Skully looks to be an interesting blend of 3D platforming and physics-based gameplay, perhaps harkening back to games of the past such as Glover on the Nintendo 64, or maybe even Marble Madness if you care to go back even further. Will it manage to blend these elements into something worth playing, or is it going to be a panium in the cranium? I'm Glen Bolger, thank you to the publishers for the review code, and now let's find out. The game starts with a human skull washing ashore on a mysterious island. One of the island's deities, who goes by the name of Terry, attempts to resurrect the skull using his powers, although it doesn't quite go to plan, as he ends up just an animated skull rather than the fully fledged human Terry was going for. Terry wants his new friend, who he names Skully, to help him stop a war between him and his siblings, who are all in charge of a particular element on the island, and bring back peace. Skully is a 3D adventure game where you must roll across the land using a variety of skills and powers you acquire in order to circumnavigate a number of environmental or platforming problems. Things start off fairly straightforward with the first 20 minutes or so dealing with basic platforming. As Skully has been reincarnated using clay, he cannot get wet, and you will learn the ropes by attempting to jump across the shore using rocks to assist you as you try to keep out of the sea. Falling in will see your health deplete, although won't necessarily spell instant death if you can get out quick enough, and you can replenish your health by holding down ZL in one of the clay pools that you come across, with these also serving as checkpoints. You will find a host of these yellow flowers within levels, and as well as being laid out in a way that gives you some indication as to where to go next, they also act as the game's main collectible, with hundreds to find within each chapter, and a fair few of these are off the beaten path. Soon enough you will learn new skills, such as the ability to wall climb whenever you come across this moss on the rocks, and this is done by holding down ZR. But the bulk of the puzzle solving will occur once you unlock the ability to transform into 3 different troll-like creatures, each with their own skill set that will be called into use at certain points. The first of these creatures is incredibly strong and can therefore knock down huge rocks to make walkways to new areas, and can also unleash a ground pound that will destroy water enemies. These would have otherwise killed Skully in one hit should they have blasted him with their water attack. Later powers, once you have unlocked the relevant creature, include being able to dash at a high speed, being able to move platforms, and having a double jump. All of these powers allow for the complexity of the puzzles to be raised. You can only summon a creature at one of the aforementioned clay pools, so this again brings some strategy into play, with you possibly needing to locate one of these first or backtrack to the most recent one after using one power to switch creatures and use another. There are times when all of this clicks into place so perfectly, and you will be whizzing around levels, balancing on ledges, making jumps, and clinging to walls, and at these times the game feels incredibly rewarding. For the most part, things are very linear, and the game is split into separate chapters, although once you have unlocked a few of the troll creatures you may have to backtrack a little through your current chapter to find a place where the troll's skill might be needed. There are even times where you will need to use more than one troll at once, switching between them to solve a problem. In terms of the controls, they are a credit to the game. You feel as if you have true control over Skully and are able to build some nice momentum. You can stop and turn on a sixpence and make jumps with precision and accuracy. When moving at quite a fast speed, it can be a bit difficult to get out of a curved movement, which may lead to you veering towards hazards at times, but this is more down to having to learn the movement pattern than any sort of issue with the controls. You control the camera by moving the right stick, and whilst the control you have over the camera is very good, with the sensitivity being pretty much spot on, it does fall prey to an unfortunate trope of 3D adventure games, with the camera occasionally getting stuck on scenery or positioning itself behind something that obstructs your view. It's not a major problem, I mean you can adjust it, and as I said, the actual control of the camera is tight and responsive. It will just have its erratic moments at times as the scenery gets in the way. There are a couple of bigger issues with the gameplay though that can, and did, trust me, lead to some serious moments of frustration. Depth perception can be an issue when jumping across platforms, especially in parts where you need to rush. Although you can of course move the camera to help you and use your shadow to judge certain jumps, doing all of this whilst trying to navigate slippery platforms which Skully is constantly sliding down, or whilst attempting to cross a stream with moving and or disappearing leaves, does really start to feel quite tedious, and these sections cause me more deaths and moments of frustration than I care to admit. Certain sections also play from a fixed perspective, with you having to outrun a threat. These sections make depth perception a real problem, sometimes with Skully being so far away from the screen that you can't even see what you can and can't jump on. Then there is a particular nemesis of mine in games, and that's inconsistencies in the frequency of checkpoints. Sometimes they are ridiculously close together, and at others you will have to overcome a part that will have you pulling your hair out only for there to be no checkpoint in sight, and death meaning you have to do that section all over again, such as constantly being blown off of this track by the wind. I'm going to be completely honest, a combination of all of the above issues during chapter 3 almost had me thinking sod the review and turning the game off. It annoyed me so much. Man, it feels good to get that off of my chest. It feels a bit like therapy. Now, whilst I know that this list of annoyances must make this sound like the worst game ever, the thing is, it's not at all. When it just lets you build up a head of steam, quite literally, or has you solving the environmental puzzles using the transformations, the game is actually pretty fun, but it just hits you with these frustrating, quite poorly designed moments every so often, and it's almost like a slog to get through a horrible part knowing that the game will become fun again soon. Gameplay can feel exhilarating as you fly along levels, transforming and finding the path forward, but can grind to a frustrating halt at others, and it scores 12 out of 20. Controls, to be fair, are very responsive and were a pleasant surprise, although issues with camera placement and depth perception do taint this somewhat, and they get 15 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, the mysterious island that sets the scene for the game really does look quite lovely. The water effects look great, and the little nuances such as the trail in the sand left by Skully as he rolls around are a nice touch. You can almost write your name in the sand. The environments change as you go on, and you will encounter caves and tropical areas, as well as mountain tops and even a fiery inferno. Performance wise, I half expected the game to stutter quite a bit, but I'm delighted to say that I was wrong in this respect. The frame rate is consistent, bar maybe 1 or 2 drops later in the game, but doesn't stutter at all whilst playing, which really aids the gameplay. The biggest issue when playing in docked is that of the assets of a level loading in when the new level begins or when you restart from a checkpoint. Popping during the level itself is at a complete minimum. In fact, I'm struggling to remember seeing much of it at all. When playing in handheld mode, everything does look a bit blurrier, not terribly so, but it is noticeable at times, and another issue whilst in handheld mode is that it does cause some slight stutter. Again, it's only occasional and mainly at points where it doesn't really affect the gameplay, but it is there more so than in docked mode nonetheless. Audio is fitting to the scene and goes from being very subtle to the point of being ambient sound to becoming more prominent and vociferous throughout the chapter. While Skully is a silent protagonist, Terry and his siblings are very vocal. Terry will speak to Skully at times, with this usually a sign that you are going in the right direction, and can occasionally be quite humorous, and he will speak to his siblings at times too, with this generally equating to them carrying on the spat that makes up the story. Visuals are very impressive and the game runs well. Handheld mode doesn't hold up quite so well, but it's still perfectly acceptable, and they score 17 out of 20. Audio does its job well enough and scores 16 out of 20. Skully costs £29.99, €34.99, $29.99 or $69 Australian dollars 99, and it will take up 3.7 GB of your hard drive or SD card space. There are 18 chapters to play through, as well as the collectible flowers to grab, and doing so rewards you with concept art and other such things. I would estimate that the game takes around 8 to 10 hours to complete, although as always it fully depends on your skill level. There is a physical version of the game available, and I've seen it already available for pre-order on some websites for around £22, which is a fair bit cheaper than that eShop price. Value scores 11 out of 20. To conclude, Skully is a fun 3D adventure platformer with a unique premise of playing as a spherical character and the added idea of the troll creatures and their respective powers. This all leads to some interesting, albeit basic, puzzle solving. The controls themselves are good, but issues with depth perception can make some of the platforming sections much more frustrating than they should have been, and that eShop price is also higher, in my opinion, than it should be. If it goes on sale or you find the physical version for a good deal, you could certainly do worse than giving Skully a roll. Skully gets a SwitchUp score of 71%. Thank you as always everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed that review. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. Is this a game that interests you? Please do let us know in the comments section below. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe of course, and until next time, happy gaming.